A most unique museum in Kansas City is now centered around the Steamboat Arabia. The Arabia was one of 400 steamboats that sank in the Missouri, the Big Mo, when packet boats plied the river. David Hawley was seeking buried treasure in 1988 when he used an old map and a metal detector to locate the Arabia, which sank in 1856. Since then, Hawley and his family have become historians and preservationists, restoring and presenting the everyday treasures of the Arabia. Steamboats carried passengers, but as the rediscovery of the Arabia demonstrated, lots of cargo. In fact, 200 tons of pre-Civil War goods were recovered when the Arabia was literally unearthed. Hawley says the discovery of the Arabia changed his life.
The digging of the Arabia was a life-changing event. We didn't know it at the time, that when we broke ground, that 15 years later now, or almost 20 actually, we're still working on this collection. We dug the boat in November of 1988. We broke ground. We spent 4 months there that winter, from November through February, taking things off. What we found was 200 tons of freight that was westbound, but still in perfect condition. It was buried in the water and in the mud, but without oxygen. And without the air, the iron wouldn't rust. We found barrels of butter that still smell like butter, barrels of molasses, jars of pickles, 4,000 shoes and boots. I mean, supplies for 16 different towns. Lots of stuff. We're told the Arabia collection is the largest collection of wet, organic materials that's been found in the world.
Visitors to the museum learn from the tour guides that locating the Arabia turned out to be the easy part. The steamboat was in a cornfield because over the years the Missouri River had changed course. But they didn't have to dig very deep before water became a major impediment to the salvage operation.
But they only got 10 feet into the ground before they started to hit that water table. So they had to devise a system to bring all that water up and out of the ground. And you see these pipes, they're wells. They go down 60 feet into the ground. Each one is connected to a pump that can bring up about 1,000 gallons of water per minute. They started with 12 pumps. 12,000 gallons of water a minute sounds like a lot, but it wasn't enough. It didn't get the water level low enough. And by the end of the dig, they had 20 of these pumps running. 20,000 gallons of water a minute coming out of the ground 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for over 3 months during the winter of '88 and into '89, costing something like $600 a day in diesel fuel. It was a huge expense, but it got the water low enough they were able to get onto the deck, as you see here, and down underneath the deck into the cargo hold where all that freight was kept. And every bit of cargo that was on this boat to get was taken out and is in this building where we're standing right now.
One thing that wasn't saved was 400 barrels of Kentucky bourbon.
The Arabia was famous for a lot of things, whiskey in particular. It had 400 barrels of supposedly the finest Kentucky bourbon you could buy in the day. And when the boat sank, because the cargo hold was filled with all this other stuff, the barrels stacked on the main deck were swept overboard by the force of the river. But not only did the whiskey wash away, so did all the upper structures, the pilot house, the cabins, all that stuff was gone.
The preservation of the cargo is an elaborate process. Metal, leather, and wood all need to be treated and then freeze-dried.
This machine's job is to pull out the moisture, what is inside of the artifacts. Once all the moisture is completely gone, they're ready to go out on display.
One of the very first discoveries was a boot with a familiar trade name.
Got down to the boat, and right near the paddle wheel was an object, and you could see it dirty and lumpy in the mud. So we bent over, picked it up, and it was a shoe, and washed it off. And it turned out it was more than just a shoe. It was a rubber shoe made out of rubber. Turned it upside down, washed the bottom of it off. Had the manufacturer's name, said the Goodyear Rubber Company. Unbelievable. We never thought we'd find the name Goodyear on anything on this boat, but there it was. And by the time we were finished, we'd found about 250 rubber shoes, some by Goodyear and some by other manufacturers.